This is a short reel.
Hello friends, this is Charles. It's been a while, hasn't it? Probably very few of you have missed us. How could you? We've got bigger concerns in the world than what happened to a couple of jackasses in their drive-in for a few weeks. Nevertheless, just in case one or two of you would like to know what happened, I'm here this week to tell you both why we weren't around and about the changes that we're making to hopefully continue the show for the long haul. Then, Ryan sets the stage for next week's special episode with a tribute to a friend of the show who influenced his musical taste from an early age. So it seems like we've got a few wonders to see. So let's start the show. When starting a podcast, one piece of conventional wisdom you might hear is this. If you get past the 7th episode of your show, you've got a shot of going for a long time. I suppose the experts who say that figure that if you're still in the game after that magic number of episodes, then you probably like podcasting, and you're likely going to find a way to keep on keeping on. Or maybe they simply feel like, at that point, you'll have some sort of workflow down to be able to find a way to move forward in a steady uphill climb. Or it might be neither of those things. Whatever the case, as you may or may not know, we are now either 9 or 19 episodes into the life of the show. It depends on whether you count these short reel episodes as proper installments. I, for one, do count the short reels because I've done work on all of them, and to me, it feels like they should count. So, 19 episodes, roughly 20 to 25 hours of content. That represents hundreds of hours of work by our tiny team in planning and scripting and scripting and scripting and recording and editing and editing and editing and producing and promoting each episode. And that's not counting the 6 to 8 hours of content that you will likely never hear. Entire episodes that were recorded and constructed and then scrapped for a variety of reasons. But hey, it was our decision to start a podcast, right? It's not your problem if a couple of dipshits sat down with microphones to talk about movies and went too far into the deep end before they knew how to swim. The 5 of you who are listening just want to hear someone talk about movies you are either curious about or movies that you already love. Or, you just want to do a virtual hangout with us because you know us. Those are all perfectly valid reasons to listen to a podcast. I personally accept the blame for most of the problems we have encountered in the first few months of our show here. I'm the one who insisted on the format of a tiny night at the drive-in twice a month. I'm the one who insisted on a double feature. And I'm the one who insisted on the commercials for imaginary products. I'm the one who spent the little extra money he had on better microphones and other equipment. All of that was my doing. And seeing that list makes me think that I should be maybe freed up of some of my decision-making power with regards to the show. Another thing that was my call was this recent break that we took. All of the work that these episodes take, especially the flagship episodes, wore me down. And Ryan had been sent home from his day job ill. So neither of us were really in shape to move forward for a few weeks. We needed that time. At least I know I did. But that time also gave us a chance to reevaluate what we were doing. How can we make this show more manageable to produce? And how can we do that and still try to keep it entertaining? And is this show entertaining? How can we make this show shorter and easier for people to digest? And is that what the audience even wants? With all of this in mind, here's what's going to happen with the All Night Drive-In Picture Show. We're going to have one double feature per month for the foreseeable future. The other 3 or so episodes for each month will break down like this. 2 of those remaining episodes will be in the drive-in format, but only contain a discussion for one movie. The other episode will be a short reel that is more free-form and could cover a variety of movies or issues related to them. Another change is something that's a little more mercurial. There is a very real possibility that our episodes will become more R-rated in nature. We've tried to err on the side of a PG-13 rating out of some vague fear that it would matter to the audience who would be turned off from our show or some corporation that would flag it as quote-unquote explicit. We're just not going to be so worried about that anymore. So those are some of the changes that are coming to the All Night Drive-In Picture Show. Let us know what you think. I mean, we did put out a social media post asking what you thought, and pretty much got no response. So we figure you probably won't mind if there are a few shuffling of deck chairs here and there. But I want to leave you with a note of thanks. If you're listening to this right now, thank you. If you've ever reviewed our show or told us directly that you like it or expressed an interest in hearing it and went and listened to it, thank you. And if you're just tuning in for the first time, thank you. We hope you enjoy the show and tell your friends about it.
Well, hello all 12 of you. This is Ryan. We have a couple episodes coming up featuring music-centric movies, and I would like to talk a little bit about music as we prepare. There are 3 types of people in the world. People who don't care about music, casual fans of music, and people who love music. Growing up, my parents had a hi-fi. If you aren't familiar with a hi-fi, it was something to behold. My parents' hi-fi was a large piece of furniture. It was about 6 feet long and looked like a buffet. It had a turntable, an 8-track player, and an AM/FM stereo. It had excellent sound coming from 2 large woofers built into the cabinet. It was a behemoth. My dad loved rock and roll and had albums and 8-tracks from Led Zeppelin, Queen, Black Sabbath, The Beatles, Boston, and Iron Butterfly. He also played bluegrass guitar, and he and his late friend Dave Hicks, an amazing banjo player, would get together many weekends and play for hours. My mom loved country music. She had albums from Waylon Jennings, Kenny Rogers, the Kendalls, and Porter Wagoner and Dolly Parton. I found out at a young age that I was one of the people that loved music because I would play all of their albums and stand next to the hi-fi, all 3 feet of me, and let the music blast me in the face, smiling, singing, and dancing. As I continued to grow, so did my taste in music. Chuck has always been my biggest influence musically, as he and I grew up together, and he was like my big brother with all the cool records. He helped shape my musical palette like no one else. I also count our announcer Lane Hewitt as an important influence then and now. Both Chuck and Lane continue to introduce me to new music that keeps me interested. I try to repay the favor. But who I want to talk about today is a friend from a record store. The first vinyl record I bought with my own money was Emotions in Motion by Billy Squier. The first 45 I bought was Feel Like a Number by Bob Seger. The first cassette I bought was the Footloose soundtrack. And the first CD I bought was Core by the Stone Temple Pilots. I bought the Footloose soundtrack and the STP CD at a store called Karma Records. Karma was owned by a man named Gary, a man that I still see at concerts and we get along famously. Gary sold the cassette to me as an 8-year-old. I remember this vividly, and it shocks me that I do. Gary is a man of over 6 feet with red hair, and I remember being intimidated by him for most of my childhood and teen years. I'm not sure why, but I'm sure it was just simply out of respect. I was also intimidated by some of the staff members only because I found them all to be painfully cool, and I desperately wanted to be one of them. There were 2 gorgeous ladies, an unpleasant drummer in a punk band that actually toured nationally and internationally, and a guy named Mike Crowder that would answer the phone using different accents and radio voices and was by far the nicest of the lot. Mike would talk to me about music when I was a teen, just trying to find the soul of music. He was there in the lean times when I was into hair metal. He let me know that he didn't like any of that shit, but he knew that all of those bands like Cheap Trick and T-Rex. Did I know that Come On Feel the Noise by Quiet Riot was originally performed by a British band called Slade, and their version was vastly better? I bought my first Black Crowes album as hair metal was in its death rattle, and Mike liked them. He told me if I liked them, I'd probably love Faces, Rod Stewart's first band. I would get wind of new bands on MTV or radio and would find their albums at Karma and wait for Mike to ring me up. I would gauge his facial expressions. If I got a nod or an all right, then I was elated. If I got a blank expression or a crinkled nose, I would know that I was on the wrong track. When grunge happened, the floodgates opened for me musically, and Mike was happy to talk to me about it. Nirvana was influenced by Iggy and Bowie and the Dead Kennedys. If you like that band, you should really check out this band. You can hear the influence instantly. All of these guys love Neil Young. Do you know about Neil Young? Let me tell you about Neil Young. I would see Mike and Gary at all the concerts. All of them. Even some I wouldn't expect to see them at. I saw them at a Pearl Jam concert. Iggy Pop was the opener, and he was electric. His band kicked ass. He was dancing and tearing up the stage, sneering and growling at the audience, and the audience couldn't have cared less. Mike and Gary were so upset at the lack of respect given to Iggy Pop that they left before Pearl Jam even came out. That's a true love of music. Mike listens to the show. He's one of our 12, and I'm so honored that he does. It makes me feel like I did back in the day. When Mike approves, I'm elated. Mike, thank you for your guidance and being a beacon for a young, impressionable lad who wanted to love music as much as you did. I'd like to think that I do, but I know that I never will. Your passion for music is a passion that most people will never experience in their everyday lives. A toast to Mike Crowder. May I see you at more concerts, and may we always share our love of music.
Coming soon to this drive-in theater.
Next week, our gold-throated announcer and host of the great Melody Motel podcast, Lade Hewitt, will join us from a socially acceptable distance for our first ever all-night drive-in rock and roll show, as we take a look at the love lives of the Seattle yuppie and grunge sets in Cameron Crowe's singles. And once you hear that, you can check out Lane's companion episode of Melody Motel focused on the film's incredible soundtrack. The Melody Motel, where the sheets are rarely clean, the radio's always set to your favorite station, and the continental breakfast always includes ham. That's it for the short reel this week. You can connect with us by following us on social media at All Night Drive-In on Twitter and Instagram, by searching the All Night Drive-In Picture Show on Facebook, and by emailing us at allnightdriveinpictureshow@gmail.com. Please subscribe to and rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts or on your favorite podcatcher if possible. And more importantly, tell your friends. Sneaking your friends into the show in the trunk is definitely allowed at the All Night Drive-In Picture Show. I mean, Stubbs probably won't like it, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. So we'll see you next week on the All Night Drive-In Picture Show. Thanks for listening.
The Short Reel is edited and produced by Markham Harvey. Our theme song is by Burning Mirror and edited by The Night Watch. I'm your announcer, Lila Pseudonym. This has been a Clown Business Coalition production. Thank you and good night.